Welcome to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight we'll explore the mysterious and ancient bond between the Egyptians and their feline companions. Close your eyes, slow your breathing, and let your imagination take you to the warm sands of the Nile Valley. Thousands of years ago, on the fertile banks of the Nile River, civilization bloomed. The ancient Egyptians built great temples, practiced intricate rituals, and looked to the skies and the earth for divine guidance. Among the many creatures they admired, none held a more special place than the cat. To us, a cat might be a cozy companion, a playful pet. But to the ancient Egyptians, it was something more, much more. The cat symbolized grace, agility, protection, even the divine. Their soft footsteps and sharp eyes seemed to connect the physical world with the unseen spiritual one. In Egyptian homes, cats were not just loved, they were revered. They roamed freely, often sitting beneath tables, curling near fires, or watching over children. But their presence was not just comforting, it was vital. Cats protected food storage by hunting mice and rats, which threatened a family's precious grain. A single cat could save a family from hunger. In this way, they became guardians of life itself. But their role didn't end in the home. They walked among temples and palaces, often in silence, with an air of mystery. People believed cats could see things that others could not, spirits, danger, or omens. And so, from humble homes to sacred shrines, the cat's presence became legendary. Short pause. In our next part, we will meet a goddess with the head of a cat and discover how entire cities worshipped her. Now, take a slow breath and drift deeper into ancient memory. We left off among the temples and homes of ancient Egypt, where cats walked in silence and were treated with reverence. But the Egyptians didn't just love cats, they deified them. Tonight, let's meet Bastet, the cat goddess of ancient Egypt. Bastet began as a lion-headed warrior goddess, fierce and protective. But over time, her image softened. She transformed into a gentler figure, with the body of a woman and the head of a domestic cat. Bastet was the goddess of home, fertility, music, joy, and protection. She guarded families from evil spirits and disease. Mothers prayed to her. Priests sang to her. Artists painted her image on temple walls. She was adored. Her main temple stood in the city of Bubastis, in the Nile Delta. It was a magnificent place, full of columns, gardens, and incense smoke. Pilgrims traveled from all across Egypt to bring offerings to Bastet, food, jewels, and sometimes small statues of cats made from bronze. But perhaps the most unusual offering of all were mummified cats. You see, the Egyptians believed that a sacred animal could carry prayers to the gods. So when a cat died, especially one that lived in or near a temple, it was mummified, carefully wrapped, honored, and buried in cat cemeteries. Archaeologists have discovered entire tombs filled with thousands of cat mummies. Some were buried in decorated sarcophagi. Others had amulets placed with them. Some were even entombed alongside their human caretakers. Imagine that. A final resting place, side by side, human and cat. Pause, slow and quiet. In the next part, we'll explore the strange laws of Egypt, where harming a cat could cost you your life, and where these feline creatures had the power to shape royal decisions. For now, let your thoughts drift through the halls of Bubastis, where incense floats in the air and the soft purring of sacred cats echoes in the quiet. We've wandered through temples and met the gentle goddess Bastet, but the Egyptians' love for cats went even deeper, into the very laws of their society. Tonight, let's explore a time when cats were protected by law, and even kings respected their will. In ancient Egypt, to harm a cat was not just frowned upon, it was a crime, a serious one. So serious, in fact, that if someone killed a cat, even by accident, the punishment could be death. Yes, death. Even foreign visitors were shocked by this. A Greek historian named Diodorus Siculus once wrote of a Roman who accidentally killed a cat. And despite the king's protection, the people were so enraged that they dragged the man through the streets and killed him. That is how sacred cats were. Egyptians believed cats were the earthly companions of divine forces. Their lives were not less valuable than a human's. In fact, sometimes they were seen as more important. If a family cat died, the entire household would mourn. Men shaved their eyebrows as a sign of grief. The body of the cat would be wrapped in linen, blessed by priests, and placed in a tomb or catacomb with care and ceremony. Cats had legal power, emotional power, even political power. Pharaohs, the kings of Egypt, were known to keep cats in their palaces. Sometimes a pharaoh would cancel an important trip or delay a war if a royal cat had passed away. Imagine a ruler of an empire postponing a campaign out of respect for a feline companion. And so the cat rose beyond pet, beyond symbol, into the realm of the sacred. Soft pause. In the next part, we'll journey into the land of tombs and pyramids and discover how cats were believed to guide souls through the afterlife. For now, rest your eyes and imagine a warm, flickering lamp inside an Egyptian home, with a cat curled in the corner, guarding both body and soul. Last time, we explored how ancient Egyptians gave cats a legal and emotional status that rivaled humans, even kings. Tonight, we turn to the world beyond, the afterlife. To the Egyptians, life did not end with death. It simply changed. The soul continued its journey, passing through trials, judgments, and sacred gates. And cats were believed to help guide that journey. Some tombs show images of cats sitting beside the dead, watching, guarding, waiting. In some beliefs, they protected the soul from evil spirits during its passage through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. The goddess Bastet wasn't only a household protector. She also had a fierce, hidden side. In earlier myths, she was linked to Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of destruction and vengeance. These two goddesses, cat and lion, were like day and night, soft and fierce, protectors and punishers. That duality made cats powerful in Egyptian belief. Their mystery, their independence, their ability to move between dark and light, quiet and wild, made them natural guides to the unknown. Some sarcophagi, especially for priests or wealthy families, contained cat amulets meant to bring good luck and protection in the afterlife. Others placed small cat statues in their tombs made of gold, bronze, or even wood. The belief was that the spirit of the cat would continue to guard them, just as it had in life. And sometimes the cat itself was buried nearby, a real one, because in ancient Egypt, the bond between a person and their cat didn't end with death. It simply crossed over. Quiet pause. In the next chapter, we'll meet real cats of Egyptian royalty and how some of their names have survived for thousands of years. But for now, drift into the deep sands of time, where pyramids rise under the stars and sacred cats walk silently between the worlds. Tonight, we open the scrolls of ancient memory and meet the real cats of Egypt's royalty. Not myths, but names. Recorded, remembered. In the tomb of Prince Thutmose, the eldest son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, archaeologists discovered something remarkable: the decorated sarcophagus of his pet cat. Her name, Ta-Mu, which means she-cat. She was not just a pet, she was royalty, buried in a tiny stone coffin, carefully inscribed with loving words and sacred symbols. A full ceremony, a funeral, for a cat. And Ta-Mu was not alone. Other tombs have shown evidence of mummified cats, buried with respect, wrapped in linen, blessed with oils, and placed in miniature coffins shaped like cats. Some of these feline companions even had golden jewelry, small earrings, nose rings, or amulets tied around their tiny bodies. In temples, priests kept sacred cats, not for company but for ritual. They were bathed, fed, and honored daily. When they died, entire rituals were performed, and hundreds, even thousands, of cat mummies were placed inside special catacombs. One such site, the Bastet near Saqqara, holds the remains of possibly a million Wong cats, a million tiny mummies, carefully preserved, quietly resting for eternity. Imagine that, a city of cats beneath the sands of Egypt. Soft pause. And still, today, we feel their presence. The paintings, the statues, the stories, the names carved into stone, they remain. Symbols of protection, companionship, mystery. Perhaps that's why cats still seem to watch us with knowing eyes, as if remembering something ancient, something sacred, something eternal. Quiet pause. In our final chapter, we'll explore how the worship of cats slowly faded, and what traces still remain in the world today. For now, breathe gently, and picture a golden cat resting on a silk cushion in a palace long turned to dust, yet somehow still alive, in memory. As the golden sands of time shifted, so did the beliefs of Egypt. The worship of cats, once central to homes, temples, and tombs, began to fade. With the arrival of new rulers, new gods, and new empires, the old ways slowly disappeared. By the time of the Romans, cat worship was frowned upon. Though cats still lived in homes, their sacred status began to vanish. Temples of Bastet were abandoned, statues were toppled, shrines were forgotten under layers of sand, but the memory never fully died. Even the Romans, practical and skeptical, couldn't ignore the elegance of the Egyptian cat. Some took them back to Europe, where they would become mysterious figures in medieval lore. And though Bastet's voice grew silent, her shadow never left. Today, she sleeps in stone, but sometimes a breeze through the ruins sounds like a whisper, a purr echoing through time. Soft pause. In the next chapter, we'll travel outside Egypt and see how the cat's journey continued across the ancient world. As the golden sands of time shifted, so did the beliefs of Egypt. The worship of cats, once central to homes, temples, and tombs, began to fade. With the arrival of new rulers, new gods, and new empires, the old ways slowly disappeared. By the time of the Romans, cat worship was frowned upon. Though cats still lived in homes, their sacred status began to vanish. Temples of Bastet were abandoned, statues were toppled, shrines were forgotten under layers of sand, but the memory never fully died. Even the Romans, practical and skeptical, couldn't ignore the elegance of the Egyptian cat. Some took them back to Europe, where they would become mysterious figures in medieval lore. And though Bastet's voice grew silent, her shadow never left. Today, she sleeps in stone, but sometimes a breeze through the ruins sounds like a whisper, a purr echoing through time. Soft pause. In the next chapter, we'll travel outside Egypt and see how the cat's journey continued across the ancient world. Beyond the Nile, cats walked new lands. In Greece, they were rare and often admired from afar. In India, they were symbols of independence. In China, protectors of scrolls and food stores. And in Japan, later in time, the beckoning cat, Maneki Neko, would lift its paw to welcome wealth and fortune. But it all began in the shadow of pyramids. Every civilization that came into contact with Egypt carried away something of the cat, its mystery, its silence, its presence. Some cultures feared them, some loved them, but none ignored them. Even today, cats appear in art, myth, and home. Whiskers drawn on clay pots in Iran, tiny paw prints on Roman tiles, faded paintings on ancient walls. Where humans went, cats often followed. Or maybe they led. In our next chapter, we'll explore the myths, the legends, and the mysteries that still surround these quiet companions. In the shadows of firelight, the ancients told stories of cats that walked between worlds, of eyes that saw the truth. Some believed cats could steal breath. Others thought they protected sleeping children. In Egypt, it was said, a cat could see evil spirits, that they guarded the doorway between life and death, that a cat's purring could calm storms or warn of danger. Even their ability to land on their feet seemed magical. Some called it balance, others sorcery. Amulets shaped like cats were worn by travelers, by warriors, by mothers, not for fashion, but for luck, for protection, for the belief that something watched over them, silently. In our next chapter, we'll ask, what exactly made the Egyptians choose the cat and not the dog or falcon or horse? What made the cat sacred while others were simply useful? Why cats? Dogs guarded homes, horses carried kings, falcons soared beside the sun god Ra. So why cats? The answer may lie in balance. Cats were quiet, self-sufficient, clean. They hunted pests that threatened food, but more than that, they were mysterious. They came and went on their own terms. They demanded respect, not commands. And to Egyptians who saw the divine in harmony, this balance between wild and calm was holy. A cat could be affectionate and deadly. It could purr and strike. It walked the line between tame and free, just like the forces of the world. Soft pause. In our final chapter, we return to the sand-covered temples and listen for the quiet purr of memory. Tonight, we end where we began, in the quiet corridors of forgotten temples, beneath fallen columns, in tombs untouched by light. The cats are still there, in carvings, in statues, in stories, and maybe in spirit. They sit, they wait, they watch, just as they always have. No empire lasts forever, not Rome, not even Egypt. But the cat remains, a silent watcher in the ruins of time, a guardian of memory. And when the wind moves through the reeds near the Nile, and the stars blink in the black desert sky, it almost feels like they're still with us, watching, purring, waiting for the next soul to pass by. Good night, traveler. Sleep well, under the eyes of Bastet. In the land of pyramids, death was not the end. It was a passage, and cats, they walked with the dead, mummified, wrapped, honored, buried beside pharaohs, nobles, and even peasants, not as pets, but as guardians, guides through the underworld. In Saqqara, entire cemeteries were found, filled with cat mummies, some laid in golden coffins, others in clay, all silent, yet sacred. To bury a cat was not to mourn, but to honor a being who walked between worlds, a creature that, perhaps, never truly dies. In our next chapter, we follow the artisans who carved cats into stone and painted them on tomb walls to make them eternal. In every brushstroke, a story. On every wall, a whisper. Egyptian artists didn't just paint cats, they captured their soul, eyes outlined in black coal, bodies curled in graceful stillness, tails wrapped like question marks. In temples, cats appeared beside gods. On papyrus scrolls, they stood guard near spells. On jewelry, they shimmered in gold and lapis lazuli. Even on furniture, their form was carved into thrones and beds. Not decoration, but devotion. A reminder that the divine was not only in the sky, but also in the fur, the whisker, the gaze. In the next chapter, we look into one of the oldest and strangest stories of a cat that once saved the world. Long ago, before pyramids, before time had shape, there was chaos. A serpent called Apep, coiled in the darkness, tried to devour the sun. Every night, the god Ra battled him. But one night, the gods needed help, and Bastet came, not as a gentle cat, but a fierce lioness, eyes glowing, claws ready. She leapt into the dark. She struck Apep again and again until the serpent fled, and the sun rose once more. The world was saved by a cat, not with words, not with armies, but with quiet fury. In our next and final chapter of the bonus journey, we ask, could it be that cats still hold power? Even now, thousands of years have passed, yet the cat has never left us. It walks our streets, our gardens, our homes. It sits in windows, watching. It curls at our feet or on our keyboards. But when it looks at you, have you ever wondered, what does it remember? What has it seen? Does it still carry the gaze of Bastet? Does it still guard the boundary between day and night? Science says it's just instinct, but history says otherwise. Every purr, an echo, every stare, a whisper of something older, something sacred. So next time your cat blinks at you slowly, know this: you are being acknowledged, not as an owner, but as a guest in their world. Good night again, and thank you for walking this quiet path through time with us. It wasn't just in temples or tombs. Cats were everywhere in daily life. On the porch, beside the fire, and in the fields. They watched the granaries, guarded homes from snakes and rats. Farmers saw them as partners, children as playmates, wives as omens of peace. Cats didn't obey, but they stayed, and that earned respect. They didn't. When Egypt traded with the world, something unexpected happened. Cats traveled. Merchants carried them on ships. Priests gifted them to rulers. Sailors took them for luck. And soon, cats arrived in Greece. Then, in Rome. At first, they were exotic, mysterious, then essential. Roman villas had cats chasing mice in cellars. Greek philosophers admired their grace. Even in the cold north, Viking ships welcomed cats on board. They weren't just pets. They were symbols of intelligence, mystery, balance. And though no temple was built for them in Europe, the quiet power of the cat remained. But how did it all begin? Let us now go to the earliest days, before even Egypt. Long, long ago, before pharaohs, before writing, there was a village, a fire, and near that fire, a cat. It crept close to eat grain spilled by humans. It stayed because the people didn't chase it away, and it hunted the rats that stole from the granaries. A quiet deal was made, no words, no promises, only mutual benefit and trust. That was the beginning of everything. Before temples, before mummies, before gods in feline form. There was this moment, a cat, a human, and a silent understanding. Perhaps that is why we still feel something ancient when a cat curls beside us and sleeps, because the bond is not new, it is remembered. And with that, we close our journey. Good night. And now, we have reached the end of our journey, from the silent deserts of ancient Egypt to the warm fire of the first village. We followed the cat, not just as an animal, but as a symbol of peace, of stillness, of balance. The Egyptians saw this long before we did. To them, the cat was not just a mouser, not just a pet. It was sacred, not because it hunted mice, but because it knew when not to move, when to simply be. Soft pause. There's a wisdom in that. You see, in a world full of noise, A cat chooses silence. In chaos, it curls up. In movement, it watches. And in pain, it purrs. It is not loud. It is not eager. It just exists. And yet, that simple existence brought gods to their knees, made kings offer gold, made families mourn, and even mummify, made artists carve them into stone, priests whisper blessings over them. And today, they still sit in our homes, still curl beside us, still watch, as if remembering everything. Slower voice. Every pyramid, every offering, every name spoken in the dark. Cats do not forget, nor do they beg. They return only.